Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Indie Comics Review. My name is Lorenzo, and every week I do reviews of indie comics from the recent weeks. And if this is the kind of content that you find interesting, be sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button. This week I'm reviewing 4 books from recent weeks. I didn't actually pull one from this week's books that came out, but I was so far behind in the older books that I decided to do some books from the recent like as recently as like maybe 2 weeks ago to maybe a month ago for one of them. So let's get started right away with those books. And the first book is Rain, and this book is written by it's a story by Joe Hill, and it was adapted by David M. Boer and drawn by Zoe Thorogood, and the colorist is Chris O'Halloran. On a seemingly normal August day in Boulder, Colorado, the skies are clear, and Honeysuckle Speck couldn't be happier. She's finally moving in with her girlfriend Yolanda, but their world is literally torn apart when dark clouds roll in and release a downpour of nails, splinters of bright crystal that shred the skin of anyone not safely undercover. Rain makes vivid this escalating apocalyptic event as the deluge of rain spreads across the country and around the world, threatening everything young lovers Honeysuckle and Yolanda hold dear. So begins a gripping 5-issue presentation of New York Times best-selling author Joe Hill's acclaimed novella, adapted by rising stars David M. Boer, Canto, Zoe Thorogood, the impending blindness of Billy Scott, and Chris O'Halloran, Ha Ha. So, based on these creators' past work, I really had not high expectations, but I figured this is going to be a pretty good book, and I was not disappointed. I mean, it really paints a picture of this event. I mean, we already know what's going to happen, but once it finishes introducing you to the characters and you feel Honeysuckle and Yolanda as people, and you get to know them in just these few pages. You really care about them a lot when this event finally happens. They have very different family situations. Yolanda comes from a very close and kind family, whereas Honeysuckle's family was not such a good family life for her coming up. It's like a perfect story of these two kids getting together, and then it's interrupted by this event. I really like Thorogood's art too. It's really perfect for this book because it's kind of simple, and it has this borderless look to the panels. The whole design is really well thought out. I feel like I should say the rain is like a symbol for something. It's some way tragedy or represents loss or heartache or something like that. I don't think that's probably far from the truth. It reads like a piece of prose, and the way it's written, there's lots of places where there's no dialogue, but the story moves along, just fine. And this is what makes me invested in seeing what happens in this book. It's really a moving story. It's well drawn, well written. This is a really all-star team of creators on this, and it's definitely a win for me. The next book is Apache Delivery Service, and this is written by Matt Kent, and it is illustrated by Tyler Jenkins. 2 haunted men are on a hunt in the jungles of Vietnam, searching for clues to a missing treasure trove of gold that was stolen from all over Asia by a Japanese general during World War II. Eventually, they find a series of hidden caves in the mountains near the coast. Bodies start showing up, murder victims and mutilated corpses. There's a rumor that the caves and the gold are protected by terrifying witches, and they have been living in the cave system for thousands of years. As our warriors travel deeper into the mystery, they learn more disturbing facts about each other, and become paranoid of one another as they get closer and closer to the gold. While at the same time, a bizarre serial killer is hunting them down. So this blurb here tells you a lot more about the story than what you actually see in issue number 1. It's a slow setup, but it's written very well by Matt Kent, one of my favorite writers, by the way. there's a lot of like in the past, I should say in the first book, Rain, there's a lot of panels with not a lot of dialogue, which I love that kind of a writing where he moves it along with just the visuals. This guy is an Army Scout. I don't even mention his name. He's not even mentioned by name in the book, but he grew up in the U.S. He's an indigenous person, and he's really good at being a scout, and he would rather be doing his work as a scout than be in this company of fellow soldiers, because of all the just, there's still a lot of racism, and even though he is actually not an Apache, and he's telling people about that, but he has given him this nickname of the Apache killer or whatever, and it's just like, he'd rather go out and just risk his life against the Viet Cong than deal with these idiots. I pre-ordered this from my NC from mycomicshop.com, and I haven't gotten my copy of it yet. I did get it the other day, but I had a chance to read it like last week, so I knew that I was going to review it because it's really a moving book. Actually, it gets you just primed up for what this could possibly be, and Matt Kindt did such a good job with Keanu Reeves on Berserker. He turned that book into something that was worth reading for at least for 4 or 5 issues for me, at least. And Matt Kindt is one of the most underrated writers out there, in my opinion. This is the Fear Case team, Matt Kindt and Jenkins. And funny thing, I didn't like the art on Fear Case as much for some reason, but it looks like it fits this book better. Maybe it's because of the chaos of Vietnam. His work is kind of squiggly and maybe kind of chaotic, and it just works for this story. But Matt Kindt could write a book and just use stick figures, because his pacing is just always just so spot on. So I'm excited to see where this book could go. It's definitely a sub for me, and I'll give Apache Delivery Service definitely a thumbs up. I recommend it. The next book is The Fourth Man, and it's written by Jeff McComsky and drawn by Mike Deodato. 3 dead bodies lay in a rural morgue, all murdered in the span of 3 weeks. It's up to 2 detectives from opposite sides of the tracks to determine who put them there, if the murders are linked, and what, if any, they have to do with a pair of dueling car dealerships. A dark comedy mystery thriller by Jeff McComsky, Grendel, Kentucky, and Mike Deodato Jr., The Amazing Spider-Man, The Resistance, that is inspired, I should say, by an outlandish true crime story. The Fourth Man story will keep you guessing until the last page. Well, this book is told in flashback. It starts at the end, basically, and we join these detectives who seem to be working together for the first time. It takes place in rural Pennsylvania in 1991. This detective is breaking in his new partner. It's a female partner, and she's going through all the things that females go through on almost every other job, especially back in those days. And they're talking about this guy who the first victim is. We're getting to know the first guy. So the first guy is this kind of a two-bit hitman, wise guy who will do pretty much anything for money, and he's doing work for one of the infamous car dealers that is described in the story. We don't know who's a good guy or who's a bad guy, but this guy has hired this first guy to spy on his competition for him. So the cops start piecing together what they know about this guy. He was found shot dead, just leaning over his El Camino. He was ambushed. We don't know who did it. He did have some gambling debts. He had a lot of enemies, so you can almost look in any direction. The story isn't bad, but it just didn't wow me. It's not terrible. It's very well drawn by Deodato. They talk about in the back matter how McComsky gave him a lot of great references so he could draw it just the way he wanted it. So Maybe it will work better. And once again, I hate to say this, but in trade form, because you don't get a lot in the first issue. And I don't know if I care enough about these characters so far to read another issue. I like the true crime aspect of it, because I do like a lot of true crime stories, but I don't know if it's gonna make my pull list or not. So for that reason, I'm a little bit iffy on it, but it's not a bad story. So if I think it's only a 4-part story too, so this is the kind of thing that you like true crime, and you have the patience to wait for the story to develop, this could be a thing that you might be interested in. The last book is Watch Dogs Legion #1, and this is written by Sylvian Runberg and drawn by Gabriel Germain. London Calling, that's actually the name of the first story arc. Mass surveillance, private militias bringing order to the streets, organized crime. The city of London has become a symbol of widespread oppression, and only its people can free it. A resistance movement bringing together genius hackers and insurgents ready for combat. DeadSec is the organization that these guys work for, the insurgents and the hackers, stands up to free the city from the yoke of these profiteers. While investigating mysterious disappearances in Kennington Oval Camp, journalist Louise Hartford will cross paths with Adam Logan, known as Spiral, or DJ Spiral, a London DJ whose music has become a symbol of revolt. Together, and with other companions in misfortune, they will have to infiltrate the spheres of power to unravel the truth. This book is very different than the first couple of books that I reviewed, like Rain and the other book, but it's very wordy. It's usually something I don't really like, but the art is super detailed, and it's laid out beautifully as far as the look of it goes. But it's not to say that it's a bad book. It is a very, in fact, incredibly smart book, and it's written very well, and it draws you into the story, even though it was like really kind of a detailed and complex story, which I'm not that kind of not my favorite kind of comic, to be honest, but I couldn't put it down and couldn't stop reading because it was just so interesting, and I was getting into the plot and the characters as they were developing. And it's very similar, the issues as far as that they're dealing with, as far as it deals with the press, with the rise of fascism worldwide, and it's very, very topical, a very topical subject. So this caught my interest as well. Like every Behemoth book, this book looks great. It's all hail Behemoth. So Behemoth makes some of the best looking indie books out there. #1 came out in November, so I guess it got lost in my subscription orders, and then I had my hiatus where I was off for a whole, I think, almost 6 weeks. So it kind of got lost in the shuffle. So I didn't mind not having any new books to review this week. So there was a few that I wanted to go back and definitely review, and this was one of them. So I'm sorry, I'm just now finding out about this book. I think it's probably in issue #3 right now. #3 maybe came out last week or so. #4 will be coming out pretty soon. It may be an ongoing series. I'm not sure, but if you can pick it up somewhere, I'm sure you can probably find it in different places, or you can wait for a trade. It'd be worth your read, I think. This book is very political, so if your political views don't line up with the views of the characters in the book, you might not enjoy it as much. But if you're willing to just suspend judgment and just let the story unfold as you read it, then you might find that you might be surprised at how good this book is. I definitely give it a thumbs up, but your results may vary depending on your beliefs. So that is it for this Indie Comics review. I did 4 this week. Next week, I'm probably going to work in an artist alley. I haven't done that in a while, and I've got some people who have sent me books, so I'm going to finally get a chance to review those books, at least one of them, I should say, and along with 3 other books probably from recent weeks. I'll probably have some new #1s that will be coming in for either from the My Comics shop.com or from my LCS. So, yeah, long story short, I'll be back next week with another indie comics review. And if this is the kind of content you find interesting, then be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn notifications on so you know when I'm making another video. So until next week, I'll see you guys in the funny papers. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and leave a thumbs up.